It's been a quiet case of managing goodbyes over the last couple of days. Sorry for my absence here. Normally I try and keep the rhythm of putting out videos, but the last couple of days just got too much in the way of being able to find the time to make some content. So today I'm going to give you an update as to what's happening, and for a bit of context, today is Tuesday the 16th of September, and tomorrow is the day that we grab our first flight out of the UK. Yvonne and I are pretty buzzing about it, having got through a couple of days of family catch-up. So I've got a couple of notes here just to kind of work through that I can share with you. So let me jump back slightly. Saturday, my sister arrived from Dublin, flew in to catch up with Yvonne and I with her partner. My sister's lived in Dublin for decades now. So the day started out in a bar called Brodie's, which is in the south side of Glasgow here. I knew that location as an Indian restaurant called Shimala Pinks. I used to go there with work colleagues many years ago, and now it's called Brodie's. And we met two friends, well, a couple, from 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. So sitting in a pub from 1 o'clock onwards is a test, and I'm pleased to say that I had 4 drinks, all non-alcoholic ciders, so that felt like a bit of a win for me, not having to go back to old ways. I have to say, you know, I've covered this in some of these videos on here, but if you're thinking about giving up alcohol, I highly recommend it. It just does wonders for your brain, and I really think that I've been able to manage this last 16 odd months in a much better mental state. As much as it's been draining and tough at times, I do ask myself what that would have been like if I had been blurring the lines by consuming alcohol. So it's not to lecture anybody or, you know, live your life as you want. Just saying that I've really found it beneficial to be alcohol free and at least have that clear mindset. So sitting in a pub all day is a challenge. My friends arrived at 1 o'clock. They used to be neighbours of Yvonne and I when we lived in Glasgow, and came to see us, now live on the outskirts of Glasgow. So we caught up with them from 1 o'clock until about 5 when my sister arrived, and then we sat in the pub almost till closing, had some nice food, the guys had some drinks, and we just sat and chatted and talked. So that was Saturday. That was really nice to see my sister and her partner. They flew home yesterday. You know, catching up with family and just doing what you need to do before you head out of here. So that was how the weekend kicked off. The friends that we're staying with here in the south side have been friends of Yvonne and I for 15 plus years, and last year when my dad fell ill, these guys opened their home to us and let us come and stay, and over this last months have just been incredible, absolute rocks for us, and that's where we're currently staying now. And they generously added me to their car insurance, and that meant that I had access to a car. So on Monday, jumped in that car and did a few visits. Let me see. First of all, we went to the storage unit because we wanted to get rid of the kind of last things that we had with us, things like dressing gowns that we've had on here in Glasgow. The weather's changed a little bit, it's a beautiful day here, but over the weekend it was absolutely pelting with rain, just reminding us of what Scotland's like in September, and that kind of creates this kind of damp feeling. So Yvonne and I were wrapped up in our dressing gowns, but they've gone into storage, other items have gone into storage. I put a little clip in here just to kind of let you see. So that was our first trip yesterday to get that done. That is it. That's all that's left to go into storage in the storage room. In the storage room. You're going to do the locker dance again, Bonnie? There it is. Our life's possessions. Now, I'd quite like to find just one thing. Can you believe that that is what's left of our life? After a 3-storey townhouse. What do you technically call it? Is it a 2-storey townhouse?
It's 3 stories.
It's 3-storey.
Yeah.
After a 3-storey townhouse, Down to just all of this. Some artwork up pump. My bike's in there. And beyond that, that's it. Okay, so we'll crack on with the rest of our day, waving it all bye. That's it. We had talked about getting like one of these storage units, but because it was outside and we had artwork and stuff, we didn't want anything getting damp. So, but look at the size of these things. Look at the size of this thing. It's too big for us. Oh, we also had the car for a little while, and we had arranged to go see Yvonne's parents and also her niece, her sister and her sister's husband, and we did that yesterday. And so we had a couple of hours to kill before they were ready, so there was a couple of things that I wanted to do. We went to see our old flat, the first place that Yvonne and I ever lived together. This is where Yvonne and I had our very first flat, and any of our friends will remember exactly this. That is where I fell and fractured my spine and broke my arm. Right there, right on those stairs. We bought that place when we were 20 years old. We bought it in 1998. Many of our friends knew us from that place in East Kilbride. It was interesting to go see it again. And that one up there was our very first flat. What did we buy it for, Yvonne? £32,500 we bought that flat there, and we lived there for 10 years. It's probably still our satellite system that's outside it. But that was it. First flat. The place is looking a little tired for sure, but old memories of what it used to look like. In 1998. 10 years later, we sold it and we moved to living in Glasgow. And that was our next home before we relocated to England. And I've got to say, going back and seeing the place, it was kind of sad to see how run down the area was, but you know, it brings back fond memories for us. And again, it's like, I'm kind of videoing these things to talk to you about it, but also just to kind of document for ourselves, because who knows when we'll be back here. So we went to see that flat, and then we did a Sainsbury's run. We had some coins and things that we had that we dropped into one of those Coinstar machines, 16 quid, 11% fee, but £16 in like 2s and 1s and 10s and 5s. And then I picked up some flowers and we went to see the graveside of my father. Now, my father was cremated, and one of his last wishes was to have his ashes scattered on his parents' grave. And I did that, and I'm not gonna choke up on this because the last videos have all had that kind of tone to them, right? And I'm trying to I'm trying to keep this upbeat. But I'll tell you this, you know, see the number of people that have reached out to me in the last days talking about their own parents, listening to that last video where I talked about the family home being sold. I just wanted to say thanks to everybody, because it did just remind me that, you know, I'm not the only person to lose a partner or a parent or a sibling, and hearing so many or reading so many comments from you just reminded me of that. So I'm glad that you guys were able to find these videos and for that to kind of resonate with you. So thank you for sharing all of your stories. Some of them were incredible, and just reading through them was tough. But I'm not going to turn this into a toughie, but I'll say this. Last year, after the cremation happened and I picked up my dad's ashes, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was just fulfill that last wish, which was to scatter his ashes on the grass at that graveside. You know, it was like 4 weeks from going sitting at a bedside to suddenly pouring out that box. And I was standing at the graveside yesterday, and my brother had been and left a little plaque for my dad just to kind of mark the spot, which caught me off guard because I didn't know that had happened. And we left some flowers and said some words. Certain wouldn't do this, but That was just to say that the job was done, task was done. House is taken care of. All the loose ends are tied up, and I feel a weight off of me. That's not to say I'm not going to get choked up talking about these things, because as soon as I start thinking about it, it becomes hard. But we left some flowers, said some words, and I've said this, right, so this is what I'm going to turn this into. You know, that was just his last resting place, but I had some of those ashes turned into this ring. So when we got on that flight tomorrow, he's going with us. And that gives me comfort in all of this. And I had a necklace made for my sister. She got that on Saturday. She's over the moon with that. She wanted to come over and specifically get that. And my dad's sister has one as well. So those that wanted something have got something. And that gives me the strength to think about tomorrow and moving on without worrying about saying goodbye. Yesterday, and we visited with Yvonne's folks. Saw her niece, saw her mum and dad, our sister and her husband. Spent a bit of time with them. Good to see the family, and they're excited for their adventures. Alright, slightly different topic. Turn this around a little. For people that have been watching this for a while, you'll know about Matt. Matt was the homeless guy that was living in the woods near my house. Matt and I have been keeping contact, so just in case you're wondering, he's been floating back and forth between his gran and back living outside again. And I'm trying to encourage him to start a channel, because I think he's got great communication. He speaks really well, got a phone, can edit a video, and I think it would be worthwhile sharing his story. So I'm trying to encourage him. You know, he's been in some of the comments of some of these videos, posting, and I want him to start a channel so that he can maybe try and build something. So Matt, if you see this, mate, get that done, get on with it. Stop overthinking it. And anybody else that's thinking about starting a channel, worried about what you're going to say, how you're going to act, what the reaction's going to be, just do it. Don't worry about everything else, just start. Okay, so Matt's okay, Matt's alright. Alright. Oh, so we're packing our suitcases now. Well, just sorting the last things out. And we're kind of ready to just get on with this. And the friends that we're going to see next on this next leg, sending me messages, super excited. So I can't wait for that as well. And we'll get on that flight and get on with it. So I guess the question that I've got to ask now is this the end of season 2? Is this one of these seasons where there was a writer's strike and you didn't get as much content as you were expecting? Is this the halfway point? You can tell me down below. We start in season 3 from the flight tomorrow? Or is this a mid-season break? Yeah, this is a TV show. I've no idea what's happening at this point. Okay. I just wanted to get back up to speed a little bit with this content. I want to say thank you so much to all of the new subscribers that have joined, that are messaging. And thank you to the membership people. If you're interested in becoming a member, sponsoring this channel, having your name featured, you can do it on a button down here. I'll highlight it on the screen how you do it. It's $2.99 a month. And you'll get, basically, your sponsor on this channel. That's the key part of it all, helping out. Thanks everyone. On to the next adventure. And we'll see you in the next video somewhere. Who knows? Have a good day everyone. One extra bit that I forgot to add on. I mentioned in the last video about a magpie and said hello dad as a bit of a joke, and I wanted to add on what that was about. My dad and I were big comedy fans, my dad being into people like Billy Connolly, and then later for the two of us, comedians in the UK like Lee Evans and Peter Kay. Peter Kay used to have a joke where he talked about, you know, people's superstitions, going to a funeral and seeing an empty Quaver packet blow by and being like, oh, that's our Tommy, he loved quavers.
He loved multi-packs, quavers, and when he died, and they lowered his coffin into the ground, an empty bag of quavers blew across.
And so last year when my dad passed away, tell you this, right? Last year when my dad passed away, the morning that he passed at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I think 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. And that morning I got back to my friend's house where we're staying here. And I'd gone through that initial shock of the grief. And in the morning, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, I walked into my friend's living room. Everybody was still in their rooms, quiet. And when I came into the living room, they had their main window open. And as I rolled up the shutter, the roller blind, there was a bee. You're going to laugh when I tell you this, right? But just go with me. There was a bee, a bumblebee, on the windowsill. And I just looked at that bee, right? And one of its legs just kind of raised up like that, almost like a wave, right? And I had tissue in my pocket from where I had probably been crying and whatever else. I picked the bee up and I just let it go outside the window. And as I did that, Yvonne came into the room and I went, oh, that was my dad. And for just in that moment, Yvonne and I just chuckled and were like, oh, he loved that he loved quavers. That's my Geordie accent, or whatever Peter Kay is, Yorkshire. And I just laughed about that, right? Because Yvonne and I just had that little giggle together, and it crossed my mind, that bee reincarnation. I'm not spiritual, right? I'm not religious. Well, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. I should say it like that. I think about these things, and I've definitely thought a lot about it over the last year and a half, more than ever. And so we picked that bee up and let it go outside, right? Now, in that time, I've talked to my sister about this, and she looks for a little robin in her garden, right? We're all just looking for that little thing. We're all just looking for that little bit of comfort. And so the other day when I sat in the park, that magpie flew down and sat on the grass in front of Yvonne and I at the park bench. It's probably looking for scraps, right? But it got closer and closer and closer to us until it just sat there and it just looked at us. And that's when I said, hello Dad, right? It's a bit of humour between Yvonne and I in that moment as we kind of laughed that off. Now, the rain came on and we got up and we walked away from the park bench, and that magpie landed on the bench and sat where we were sitting. Now, we were under a tree hiding from the rain. And somebody sent me a message on that video sharing a similar story about a parent that had passed by and, a magpie that would come to the window regularly. So I just wanted to kind of explain a little bit about that, because it was more just, it made me chuckle, right? Do I believe my dad's a bee? Do I believe my dad's a magpie? Who knows? And as I've just said, as long as I know he's there in some shape or form, that's good enough for me. Keeps the memories alive. All right, that is it for now. Have a great day.